Which conversation shall we join?
The one least likely to involve gunfire.
Today we are in Savannah's Monterey Square to check out a house that you may or may not be familiar with. Join us today as we do just a little Splorin. One of my favorite books that became a favorite movie, a favorite audiobook, favorite you name it, is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And this right here is a closer look at the Mercer Williams House. Up close and personal, whatever that should happen to mean in terms of a house. It is, to say the least, a very interesting neighborhood. Coming to you right now from the corner of Bull Street in Wayne, downtown Savannah. A lot of you probably already know the story behind this house, so bear with me for the folks who do not know the story so far. This is the fabled Mercer Williams House Museum, formerly just the Mercer House, here on the corner of Bull and Wayne Street. That right there is a van that's going to explode shortly, apparently. But this house was built well before the events of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. This was built by a military man by the name of Mercer, great-grandfather, I believe, perhaps great-great-grandfather to one Mr. Johnny Mercer, who is one of Savannah's most famous sons. And as you can see, this house is absolutely gorgeous and enormous. But I don't believe the Mercers ever really did live here. They built the house. There were things happening around that period of time. This little thing called the Civil War. And I don't believe he ever really did move into the house. And people ask about Johnny Mercer. Johnny Mercer never lived here either. I am sure Johnny Mercer spent a lot of time near here and is very well familiar with the house, but he didn't live here. So the house itself fell somewhat into disrepair throughout the years, as did most of Savannah. Before it went through a little bit of a renaissance, and you could see some of the houses around here, these were also quickly purchased in the second half of the 20th century. This particular house was bought by one Mr. James Arthur Williams, who lived here in the 70s and the very early part of the 80s. And he did a really good job of restoring everything to its previous splendor. Probably did a few things that were not quite like they originally were, but for the most part brought it back to what the original Mercer intention was. For instance, I don't believe it actually had AstroTurf to begin with. But Mr. Williams was one of the people who was most instrumental in bringing Savannah back from the brink when he came downtown with quite a few other folks to purchase a lot of these more rundown but historical buildings and bring them back up to their splendor. He did a lot of antique renovation, a lot of house renovation. There's actually a few houses here in Savannah that have the Williams name attached to them. This is the one that is most famous because there is a movie called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil that took place largely in and around and because of this home. Now, it's not just a movie, it is a nonfiction novel, and by that they mean that it is largely a true story. The author, John Barrett, has called it 99% nonfiction, 1% is his imagination, and what happened here was a killing in the early 80s where Jim Williams killed his then-lover, Danny Hansford. Take a quick moment out to show you these hearse ghost tours that are coming through here. Quite an amazing vehicle. Jim and Danny had an interesting relationship. As came out afterwards, they were in a sexual relationship. From what I understand, Danny was a very tumultuous young man. Probably, these days, he would have been diagnosed as bipolar. Back in the 70s and early 80s, they didn't really do a whole lot of the diagnosing. They just often kind of threw away the person. Danny had some problems. He was very violent. He was very nihilistic. He was very uneven. He had a lot of chemical dependency issues. And they fought quite a bit. But as time went on, the fighting became more and more violent. And one night, Danny came in during one of their fights and knocked over a large, very expensive, very impressive grandfather clock and destroyed it. And after that, what happened next is a little bit of a matter of conjecture. According to Jim at the time, they got into a physical altercation, whereas Danny pulled a gun, in this particular case, a German Luger, on Jim, and told him that he was going to kill him. According to Jim at the time, Danny squeezed off a couple of rounds, but missed him. And at that point, forgive the glare, and at that point, Jim reached into his desk, pulled out his own German Luger, and fired a few more rounds back. And in his case, he hit Danny. Danny fell to the ground. Danny died. Called the police. There was a lot that went into the police investigation, but in a nutshell, the police came. Jim's house was very popular. Jim was very popular in the social scene of Savannah, and they let a whole lot of people into the house before doing any of the investigation or even removing Danny's body. And long story short, they contaminated a lot of the evidence. See, Jim used to have a lot of big Christmas parties here in this house, and during those parties, the cream of the crop of Atlanta would be here. And people, they used to really want to get on his Christmas list so they can come to the amazing parties that he would throw. So when the killing happened, the police came in, the press came in, friends came in, neighbors came in, a lot of people came in, trampled through the evidence, did not do what they were supposed to do in terms of locking down the scene. And when Jim went to trial, and he went to trial multiple times for this, they were able to appeal, and in one case actually get the original guilty verdict thrown out because of how they screwed up the investigation. We've walked around to the back of the property. This is the carriage shop. This is actually where Jim used to come and run his business. Like I said, he restored antiques, and when I say restored antiques, I don't mean like you see a lot of these people go to garage sales and estate sales and buy things up. When I say that he went to estate sales, I mean he was going to Europe and buying things from royalty. In fact, here is a picture, try to get you a shot without as much of a glare, of the inside of the Mercer house. And you can see some of the antiques that he's picked up and restored. But this carriage shop is where he ran his business out of. And this is where Danny originally came in and worked for him, helping with the restoration before their relationship moved on to a more physical level. Take a look at the back of this. You can see up there, beautiful balcony. I believe after Jim left the property, it fell into the hands of his sister for a while. She tried to sell the property, I was told, for something like $9 million. After it didn't sell, they dropped it to about $7 million. And I believe it still didn't sell. These days it's become a museum. They do tours. I believe there may have been some people living here at one point. I don't know if they still do or not. I do know that I'm looking up at the balcony, and some of the furniture that's up there is certainly a lot more modern, which would lead me to believe that people are using it not just as a museum, but to actually relax. But anyways, the trial went back and forth. There were several trials. And when it was all said and done, I think it was in the fourth trial, they finally found Jim not guilty, primarily because they said it was not murder one, but was rather manslaughter, self-defense, which is probably what they should have charged him with to begin with. But there's some politics behind it, and they went for murder one instead. Now, since the trial, more has come out about this. It does look like Jim probably lied about how the situation went down. It looks like what actually happened is that Danny pulled the gun on him and the gun did not fire. But Jim pulled out his gun and shot him anyways. And not only shot him, but after he hit the ground, stood over him and shot another time or two. So it went from self-defense, don't get me wrong, it does look like Danny most likely pulled the gun first and tried to kill him, but it didn't work. There's a ghost tour over there right now, so I don't want to get in their way, but not long after the trial, Jim was back in the house where the killing originally took place, and Jim ended up passing away very unexpectedly. I'm told, or I've read at least, that it was probably a heart attack and pneumonia kind of combined to do the deed. In the movie version of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, they imply that it was something a little bit more macabre, a little something supernatural, that Danny may have had his ultimate revenge and caused him to die. There is no real reason to believe that part happened. Could it have? Your guess is as good as mine, but that was certainly made up and thrown into the story at that point to make it seem a little bit more closure, if you will. Walking across the street now to one of the squares that's over here, staying out of the way of the ghost tour. And there's a lot of ghost tours going through here. Savannah is a very haunted, very historical city. So we'll take a couple of moments to come over here and check out the Pulaski Monument. Very large monument. General Casimir Pulaski, who fell at Savannah in the cause of American independence. This was completed in 1854. The cornerstone was laid with impressive ceremonies October 11th, 1853, the 74th anniversary of the traditional date of the death of the famous Polish patriot. So in terms of the Mercer Williams House, people have asked before. I've seen several times online. I've had a couple of people ask me when I told them I was coming to Savannah if I'm going to go to Bonaventure Cemetery, which is one of the more famous cemeteries here, to visit the graves of Danny and Jim. Now, Danny actually is over there. His grave is in the back section. There are different portions of Bonaventure that have been kind of carved up over the years, and Danny is laid to rest in one of them. Jim was not buried in Savannah. Jim went back home. He is from further up north in Georgia, not north of Savannah, but further in the state and north, a more rural country area. But his family had a plot there, and he went back home to be buried. So he is not in Bonaventure Cemetery, but Danny certainly is. Right across the street, well, to the side of the house at least, this is a house that used to be called the Lee Adler House. Now, Lee was another preservationist here in Savannah, and somewhat of a rival to Jim. Right or wrong, they had a very adversarial relationship between the two of them. They were both preservationists. They both took a very different view as to what that does and what that should mean here in Savannah. And actually, as we're talking, I'm seeing Preservation Associates plaque on this part of the house right here. Now, Lee Adler and his wife lived here and continued to live here after all of the hullabaloo of the book and the movie. As I understand, Lee was not happy with the way that he was portrayed by John Berendt, the author of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. But this is where he and his family lived. There is some conjecture that the reason Jim was originally charged with murder one as opposed to manslaughter largely is because of some pressure that Lee Adler may or may not have placed on the prosecutor, who was heavily supported financially by Mr. Adler. And the prosecutor, there was some politics involved, was seen as weak up until the trial. And the prosecutor, he wanted a big win. Lee wanted to get Jim out of here Again, a lot of this is conjecture. This is what has been said. I don't know that they've ever actually gone on record to approve those stories, but that's what they say. Lee here was actually very much responsible for the beginning of the Renaissance of the Victorian area of Savannah, which is turning somewhat that direction. He is also largely known to have helped a lot of African Americans into some of the homes downtown. There is again some conjecture as to how well he performed those duties and what type of landlord he was, but he did sort of bring a more diverse group into the area. And I do know that there were a lot of people who were not terribly happy with that. The fact is, we are in the Deep South. That was the 70s. And Lord knows there's plenty of racism today. You can only imagine what it looked like at that point. And that, my friends, is that for the Mercer House. No ghosts, no invitations to any Christmas parties from Jim Williams' spirit, and thankfully no run-ins with any antique pistols. Hey, if you enjoy this southern slice of true crime, haunted history, or you just like watching me loiter legally near famous houses, well, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe so that you don't miss the next odd corner that we wander into. And as always, join us next time as we do just a little more Splorin.